Hey guys, what's going on? It's me, Jaspas, and welcome back to Storytime Saturday. Today we're going to be continuing the story from the previous episode of Storytime Saturdays. You can check it out using the link up here in the cards. And if you've already seen that, then let's get down to the story. In our last episode, main character Jaspas' dad was abandoned by good friend Kevin Ho as he moved to the Singapore American School. So after Kevin moved on to the Singapore American School, but before I started to pick up Cardistry from meeting him half a year later, I was thrown into a new class of people that I didn't know. Basically, in Singapore schools, you have at secondary level, which is about grade 7, I think is what you guys in America would call it. So grade 7, 8, 9, 10. These 4 years of schooling is called secondary school, and for secondary school it's usually broken into two parts. So in secondary 1 and secondary 2 you're following one group of people, secondary 3 and secondary 4 you're following another group of people, and these people will be your classmates. Usually there won't be any changes regardless of what happens during class. So in secondary 1 and secondary 2, Kevin was in my class. When I moved to secondary 3 and secondary 4, there was this great sense of loss in terms of, like, you know, my best friend has moved on from the school that I was in, and I didn't have anyone to talk to about magic or cardistry. It was actually a pretty difficult time for me because, you know, most of my social circles when I was in secondary 1 and secondary 2 were of the geekier type. You know, they enjoyed anime, they enjoyed card games, they enjoyed computer games. We enjoyed talking about, you know, things that are a little bit on the nerdier, geekier side. But when I moved to secondary 3 and 4, what I wanted to do was I wanted to ensure that my school work was as little as possible. So I chose a series of curriculum that was a little bit more on the slackier side. And because of that, I was actually thrown into a class that had more, how do I put this in a nice way, more bad boys, more naughty kids. It was in this place in secondary 3 and 4 that I was introduced to classmates that smoked. I was introduced to people that you know were having their adult relationships at a young age. I was introduced to people that ran around with the gangs, like the actual gangs in Singapore. And because of that, I actually felt completely out of place. At some level, I felt like, oh man, I can't get along with these people. I don't understand their lingo, I don't understand their language. I didn't understand the way this class worked together. In my mind, school was a place where, you know, everyone was a nerdy, geeky, awkward kid. We can all talk about stuff. But when I hit secondary 3 and chose that specific curriculum, ooh boy, that was a different experience. So I spent, I think, like the first month or so kind of not being able to get along with the people in the class. I was a bit more reserved, a bit more quiet. I was that nerdy kid in school. It was a pretty lonely 1 month of my school life. It was so bad that I actually thought the rest of my secondary school life was going to be like this. But at the end of about 1 month of this kind of loneliness, in came someone that would change my life. In secondary 3, when I was about 15 years old, there was this clique of friends called the Sunshine Boys. And they took some kind of inspiration from Taiwanese dramas, you know, where a group of moderately good-looking guys get together and then have the whole boy band effect. The Sunshine Boys was this group of 15-year-old boys. I think it's a group of 11 people, and they would basically hang out together, get their cigarettes together, and smoke on out. Before I met this group of people, before I met even this whole class of people, I didn't realize people my age smoked. That's how protected and how innocent I was back at this age. I thought that as a 15-year-old, who the hell would smoke? Why would anybody smoke? Lo and behold, within my class, there were, I think, 5, 6 or 7 of the Sunshine Boys kids. And of that group, I think like 70% of them smoked. So it was a huge rude awakening. However, that's not the main point of the story. The main point of the story is that Leonard was a member of the Sunshine Boys, and for some reason, something happened between him and I think the leader of the Sunshine Boys, resulting in a fracture in the group dynamic. Leonard was kicked out of the group and he was friendless. In class, he got ridiculed and teased and made fun of by the group of Sunshine Boys that was in my class. Without his old friends by his side and without like a new group of people to be his friends, somehow or rather, due to I think the fact that my height and his height was sort of similar, we became friends. To be fair, a very unlikely pairing of two people. Back then I was super nerdy and super shy and I couldn't like figure out social dynamics very well, but Leonard was like a powerhouse of networking. He could go up to any group of people and he could talk and he could have fun. For some reason, fate would tie Leonard and I together to become a pair of friends. I think it was during one of those like pair and study kind of sessions. One of the teachers threw Leonard and I into a pairing and then we had to do a project together. Through that event, I got to know a little bit more about Leonard, and as time went by, I opened up a little bit to him. I showed him some card magic. At first I didn't feel like I could get along with Leonard because fundamentally our upbringing was very different. The first time that I sat beside Leonard and could smell like cigarette smoke on his breath, I was like mind blown. Like, how can somebody this age smoke? It's impossible. There's no way. How would he even get cigarettes? But over time, Leonard's like uplifting and fun kind of character got through to me, and as I became more comfortable with him, I decided to show Leonard a little bit about myself. I showed him some card magic. I didn't think that Leonard was gonna think much about it. I thought he was gonna be impressed and he was gonna go like, "Whoa, that's amazing, man," and just drop it and forget about it after that. But what actually happened was completely different. Leonard immediately became super duper interested in card magic and he was like, "Jaspas, teach me how to do card magic, man. I gotta know, man." And he constantly reminded me about it on and off for about a week or two. I didn't think that he would have the same attention span, and each and every time he asked me to teach him, I would be like, "Nah, man, no, I'm not gonna, nah. A magician never reveals his secret, man. I'm not gonna teach you." But I was actually very surprised because 2 weeks later he was still bugging me about it, and I finally caved in. I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna teach you a coin trick and a card trick, a very simple coin trick and a very simple card trick. If you like it and you actually learn it, maybe I can teach you more." So I taught him how to do a French drop, whoop, and then you were like, whew, and it's gone, and then you show like both hands, whoa, the coin is gone. And I taught him how to do, I didn't teach him how to do a double lift. I taught him something else, something completely different. I can't remember what it was, but I taught him a very simple card magic slide. I taught him these two things because I thought that once he knew the secret behind some of the magic tricks that I do, he'll be much less interested. After all, you know, magic isn't exactly the most sexy thing once you look behind the curtains and see like all the little monkey that's pulling the invisible strings for you. After the day that I taught Leonard to magic tricks was the weekend, and when I went back on Monday, I was fully expecting Leonard to have like completely forgotten about the card tricks, forgotten about the agreement to if he's still interested after a while, then I'll continue teaching him stuff. Lo and behold, the day that we went back to school on Monday, Leonard rocks up to me in class first thing in the morning, like 8 a.m. in the morning. He's like, "Hey man, check this out." And then he shows me a perfect French drop like this, and he vanishes the coin. He showed me the exact same move that I taught him, and it was pretty damn good. I looked at him and I was like, "Whoa, did you actually practice it?" And he's like, "Yeah, I spent all 2 days practicing it." Young me was mind blown. How could it be? How could the guy that I thought was just a regular gangster, how could this bad boy that I thought would be off, you know, dating girls and going out and having fun and forgetting about this thing that I loved and cared about very deeply, how could he actually care at least a little bit about it? I was mind blown. So from that moment on, I decided that I wouldn't stop Leonard from learning magic anymore. I would encourage him, I would give him all the information he needed, and I would support his learning of magic. Through the power of magic, the two of us became very close and we bonded very tightly over magic. Every single day in school, I would be rocking up with a new idea or concept or magic trick that I bought at the magic store, and I'll be like, hey Leonard, check this out, and then I would try to do it as best I can for him, and then he would be like, oh shit, that's amazing, mind blown, and then he would let me guess, is it done using this, did you do a switch here, and then you swap the decks there, and then you and then that's the outcome. Now sometimes he would get it right and I'll be like, hey man, that's exactly it. Sometimes he would get it wrong and then I'll be like, nah, it's actually like this, and we would discuss methods and discuss techniques, and bam, we were one team. Keep in mind that at this point I was getting more and more technical and more proficient with my magic, but my presentation was completely, how do I put this? It was completely Americanized, because the magicians that I watched on YouTube or on the videos that I downloaded, all of them were American magicians using American slangs and telling American patter, and it was very awkward seeing a young boy do that kind of patter. Leonard, however, didn't suffer from this. Immediately, he instinctively knew that this mismatch between the patter being one way and our normal conversation techniques being another way would be a hurdle for most Singaporean audience members to get over. It's really awkward if you go from hey Ronnie, hey come Ronnie, hey, yesterday I saw this magic trick and I was like, wow, damn, that was so super cool, y'all. And then I realized, right, that I have the skill to do it. So today I am gonna show you. You tell me what you think, okay? You don't just KK just to make me happy, okay? Just tell me the truth. So here I have an absolutely normal deck of playing cards. Could you pick a card, please? Sign across the face. Don't forget your card, if not it's gonna be embarrassing at the end. This mental hurdle of switching between Singlish and American English is super awkward when you're presenting magic, and it's a thing that I think a lot of beginners had as a problem. But Leonard didn't have this problem. He merely threw that out. His patter was pure Singlish. He just went in with the exact same plot but phrased differently so that the audience member can understand. I respected him very much for that. Leonard in secondary school was also on the basketball team, which made him very popular with the girls in my school, because my school was pretty strong as a secondary school within the East Singapore district, and we regularly placed pretty high in the competitions. Because of that, every basketball training day was a day that I couldn't practice magic with him after school, and I would just on the way out of school walk by the basketball court and see him doing his basketball stuff, shooting his basketball balls, and looking cool in general. Now, the basketball court in my school was right beside the pathway that lets you get to the gate to exit the school. And every time I left while he was training basketball, there'll be this group of fangirls on the side. They would be sitting on the parapet right beside the basketball court and checking out the guys as they sweat and throw basketballs and run and stuff. All young 15-year-old girls lusting over young 15-year-old boys. What a weird age in our lives. The fact that there were girls that were interested in him at that point of time in life. Keep in mind, there were no girls interested in me. I was this nerdy nerd boy. Made me jealous of him, and at the same time made me respect him even more than before. But my pride never allowed me to ask him, how do we girls? How do we get girls, man? I don't understand. I don't understand the dynamics. At some level, I think that this mutual respect for what each of us is good at, the fact that he's good at social stuff, social skills, and I was good at magic, and to a small degree small cut flourishes, made our relationship super duper close and super duper bonded. Very quickly, half a year passed as we grew better and better in our magic, and we learned more and more from each other. And then I met Kevin once again after his transferring to the Singapore American School, and it was at this specific time that Kevin showed me the works of Caps Casino and Dan and Dave. After hearing about this, even though on the surface I was like, no, I'm not gonna fall for card flourishing, when I went back, I actually went to research it. And after picking up some little card flourishes from here and there, at some point I went to Leonard and I showed him like the skills that I learned. One of the things that I learned was some basic two-handed Sybil kind of combo. Another one was like card throwing techniques, and another one would be the anaconda. At that point of time, I think was when I learned the anaconda. I showed all of these things to Leonard and he was once again blown away, and we became sort of like buddies in terms of like learning and training card flourishing techniques. Over time we learned more and more about each other. Leonard would push me to perform cardistry and magic for other kids within our school. I distinctively remember once in our school library I was like hanging out with Leonard, and then he was like, hey, show that girl magic lah, show that girl. And then I went up to the girl and then we were doing some magic, and then I told her like, hey, my friend here, my bro here can also do magic. And then he showed her some magic, and then after that we showed some like card tossing techniques, and I was like, hey, you see that shelf of books over there? Watch this. I took the card, tossed it, slow motion, bullet time, and then it landed right between two books that I specifically pointed at, and a group of kids that had gathered around us at that point of time were blown away. They were like, oh shit, I think the librarian at that point of time was a student as well, and she, at the end of it, no one was like studying in the school library. It was mayhem. It was awesome. I also remember helping him through the times of like his heartbreak when the girl he was interested in rejected him, and he was just like, oh man, why she don't love me, and he was like punching the walls and stuff. Oh my god, all the secondary school stupid histories of our lives are all coming out right now. But yeah, it was a great 2 years. Even though at the beginning of it, I was like, I couldn't fit into this group of this group of class members. Even though I thought that in secondary 3 or 4 I wasn't gonna have a good time because I couldn't fit in with the people in my class, it was thanks to Leonard that I actually evolved and changed very, very differently from what I thought I was gonna become. As I went through secondary school, I thought it was cool to be this prim and proper and serious guy, but Leonard showed me a way of lightening up people's lives around you and being social and having fun. And he showed me that even at our ages we could love and we could lose and we could be sad. He showed me that magic and cardistry is cool, even to the non-magicians and non-cardists around the world. Even though Leonard wasn't a serious magician cardist, it was thanks to him that I found a path in my life that allowed me to continue doing cardistry and magic, even though many people around that age range would have dropped it for games or for girls or for things around us. Leonard allowed me to feel cool as a magician and cardist. We had fun times and we had sad times, and all in all, I think I got a brother from Leonard. The kind of brother that I didn't have in my life. Of course, I have a younger brother in real life, and he's super cool too. And he's super tall and super handsome, and one of the girls that I liked during secondary school turned out to have liked him instead of me, so that's a story for another time. But yeah, without Leonard, I think I wouldn't be a cardist today. He allowed me to feel that magic and cardistry was cool, even though it's inherently one of the most nerdy things around. He allowed me to continue loving the art that I fell in love with in my secondary school days, ever since I was 13 years old in secondary 1. After we graduated, Leonard slowly fell out of love with magic and cardistry, and he went on to study in a completely different school system from myself. And once again, I felt the loss of a friend that helped me through my young teenage years. Even though he fell out of love with cardistry and magic, we continued to meet up even after we graduated from school. I distinctively remember once he was actually giving me dressing advice, fashion advice. I was this I was this really nerdy kid that didn't dress up at all. Like I completely didn't understand the importance of dressing up and the importance of looking your best. But I distinctively remember once he told me like, hey man, stop dressing like that. Here, let me dress you up for one day, and then we're gonna go back to Temasek Secondary School and let's see what happens, you know, let's see what people think of the fact that you dressed up. And when we went back to secondary school, when we went back to Temasek Secondary School, one of the girls that liked him, that was our junior and was still studying at Temasek Secondary, was like, hey Jaspas, you look kinda nice today, huh? Or something to that effect. And that stuck with me for the longest time. It was at that moment that I decided like, hey, we gotta learn how to dress up, we gotta learn how to fashion, at least a little bit. Leonard would eventually stop doing cardistry and magic altogether, and I would transfer to junior college. First I went to Tampines Junior College for the first 3 months of my 17-year-old life, I think. And then after that I went to Serangoon Junior College, which would continue for the rest of 17 years old and 18 years old. And when I went to Serangoon Junior College, I was faced with a huge problem. No one around me was doing cardistry. No one around me was doing magic. In terms of having friends to work with and struggle with and learn new cardistry and magic with, it was a barren wasteland. And yes, there were friends, and yes, there were people that were cool and I had fun with, but in terms of cardistry and magic, it was a barren wasteland. It didn't even take me half a month to realize that I was all alone. Realizing that I was all alone, I was freaked out, because I realized that without someone to work on cardistry and magic with, sooner or later I was gonna lose the feelings that I have inside me about cardistry and magic. Sooner or later I was gonna be like, it's not fun, there's no one to hang out with, no one to talk about new ideas with, no one to share gossip or ideas or absolutely anything with. I was completely freaked out and afraid. I didn't want to fall out of love with the art form that I've come to love so intensely for the last 4 years. So I joined an online forum called the Singapore Magic Circle. But that's a story for another time. Alright guys, so thank you guys very much for joining me on this Storytime Saturday. I hope you enjoyed this story about Leonard and how he helped me keep the fires of passion for cardistry and magic alive in my heart for such a long time. If you guys have any questions for me, leave it in the comment section below. If you have any thoughts about Storytime and how we can improve it, let me know. Or if you loved any specific part of this story, let me know in the comment section below. I really want to know. Until next time guys, I'm Jaspas. Thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll talk to you guys in the next episode. Bye bye.